Hello and welcome to the Ditton Works YouTube channel. I haven't actually got anything new to review or to talk about really, so I thought I would just do a video on my own system because occasionally people do ask what amplifier is it, what wires do you use, so on and so forth. So let's have a look at the Ditton Works system. So if we start at the top, we've got a Technics SL1210 Mark II, which was made in 2005. I've done a couple of things to it. It's got a brand new Autophon 2M blue cartridge with a new head shell. It's got the ISON feet on it, the KAB fluid trough, and an Origin Live mat. But apart from that, all the wiring, everything is completely standard. Moving down is a TIAC P30 Transport, which the modern equivalent of is called Esoteric. I'm not exactly sure how old that is, but I bought that secondhand and I really enjoy it. It's a fantastic piece of kit. Moving down from that is a Bluesound Node 2i, which is what I use for streaming. And beside that is a Benchmark DAC 1. Below that is a new Quad Artera preamp. Below that is a Meridian 557 power amp, all housed in name frame light racking. The main speakers are Spendor Classic 2.3, sitting on Hi-Fi Racks Fortis stands, which are sitting on the ISO Acoustics Gaia 3 isolation feet, which are then sitting on granite plinths. So how is this all wired up? So the Technics runs into the phono stage of the Quad Artera Pre, so does the Benchmark, and that's the only things that are being inputted into the phono, into the preamp. The rest of them run into the Benchmark, then into the preamp. So you've got a balanced XLR cable coming out of the transport, going into the DAC. We've got a Audio Quest Forest cable coming out of the Bluesound node into the DAC, and then balanced XLRs from Tellurium going into the preamp, and then balanced XLRs from the preamp into the power amp. And I use Audio Quest Rocket 22 speaker cable for those speakers because they're bi-wired. This has been in various different configurations over the time. I did have a Meridian 556 in the setup running the Falcon LS35As independently, but ultimately I decided that 4 speakers was just one pair too many, so I'll just keep it with 2 now, and if I do want to switch these out, I'll put them to one side and then bring in the other pair. So it did away with the 556. I did try a pair of 557s, running them in bridged mono, which gave you a tremendous output. It was 680 watts per channel at 8 ohms, which sounds fantastic on paper, but in all honesty, the sound, particularly in the mid-range, sounded quite hard to my ears. So again, I went back to just one amp, which is running presently at 200 watts per channel because the speaker's at 8 ohms. So I really didn't feel that I'd improved anything by adding a second amp or really running 2 pairs of speakers, because you can only really run 1 pair of speakers at any given time. Things that made a massive difference. So the spindles arrived before the stands, and I was running those on Haybrook open frame metal stands, and they sounded okay, but not as good as I thought they would for the cost. When the hi-fi rack stands arrived, there was a remarkable improvement in sonic characteristics, basically because the speaker cabinets could breathe better on those stands. The next improvement was adding the isoacoustics feet, which initially were just sitting on the carpet. I was going to buy the carpet spikes, but there weren't any available at the time. And in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because advice from somebody actually who commented on the channel is said try some granite plinths underneath them. Well, I've had those plinths for years and years and years. They've sat under various pairs of speakers, and they were sitting underneath my A compacts, which this camera is sitting on, and they're there for just TV purposes. And I moved them from the A compacts, put them under there, and yet again a marked improvement in the tightness of bass, and I'm really happy with how they sound. Other areas of improvement, so the feet on the Technics, no difference whatsoever, but I didn't have a problem with sort of seismic activity in the house. It's a concrete floor, so I wasn't getting any sort of resonance coming through the rack and into the turntable. I thought the standard feet were dealing with it quite well. But I quite like the look of them, and I thought I'd give them a try to see if they had made any difference, and I actually can't detect any difference at all. But they'll stay on there. The turntable came to me with more of a DJ sort of Concord type cartridge on there. I've got to say that the Autophon 2M Blue made a massive difference. It's much more detailed than that cartridge, so I was pleased with that. The fluid trough, I can't really tell you if it made any difference because I had that fitted immediately. So straight away that was on there. But I really quite like it. I think there's many areas of improvement still to come from the analog side of my setup that I'll investigate in the further coming months. Other areas of improvement, I did play about with different cabling between the, actually I tried different cabling between the router from the router into the Blue Sound node, and a lot of people say that's a digital signal, it won't make any difference. I needed a longer one because 6 meters wasn't quite long enough, so I had to buy 8 meters, and I bought quite a good quality one, and I have to say I have absolutely no issues with the streaming side of things. I really like that Blue Sound Node 2i. I use Qobuz to stream, and it's just brilliant. I do find I spend more time looking for music and just quickly trying things to see if I like it than I actually do listening to music. That's something that's probably worth a bit of a chat, actually. That something with vinyl, I think vinyl's a bit more of a event. So you'll put the record on, you'll sit down, you'll have a listen to it, enjoy it, turn the record over and complete the album. With streaming, I don't find I do that quite as much. I tend to quickly flit around and try and find new music to me, and I've found all sorts of things. A couple of my friends both use the same device, so we're often sharing playlists and different pieces of music we've discovered, and a whole world of different tracks have come my way because of streaming, so I'm a big fan of that. I did try going between a fairly cheap coax cable up to Benchmark's own cable and an AudioQuest Forest cable, and I personally preferred the AudioQuest Forest cable over the Benchmark cable. Wasn't much difference in price, but for whatever reason I just thought there was just a little bit more detail with the AudioQuest cable. XLRs did make a big difference. That the Tellurium cables that I bought initially were a marked improvement over the AudioQuest ones I was using. And I bought some Final Audio, I think is the company name, silver XLR cables, which made yet another improvement. Another improvement was also with mains cabling, which I did a video on the other day. And I think slowly but surely you can incrementally fine tune and get tiny little adjustments that are favourable to your own ears with great joy. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it, but I must admit the analog side is something that I know needs some improvement. Now, everybody poo-poos Technics SL1200s or 1210s because of the DJ connection. I've had many pairs of 1210s over the years because I did used to do beat match DJing. So I'm quite familiar with it as a tool, but I never really considered using one as a proper record player. Well, that's actually what their first intended purpose was. And it just happened that they were really good for beat matching because of the pitch and the sort of how stable and indestructible basically the turntable was. Also, that quartz direct drive motor was really good at starting off, so it was good for finding the beginning part of the loop in a drum beat, for argument's sake, pulling it back with a slip mat on there and letting it go, and it would just start off. But I hadn't considered one as a sort of hi-fi turntable, but I'm glad I have. I'm going to explore that, see what can be eked out of that turntable in the upcoming months and try and get it to a level where I'm happy. I do also have a Riga Planner 2 with the RB250 arm on it, and I've got to say I actually personally prefer the Technics. I don't know whether that's for nostalgic reasons or what, but I really enjoy using that. But that's basically it. That over a period of a couple of years, particularly over this year when I started this YouTube channel, that the stereo, my hi-fi journey has been that, is slowly, incrementally improving and adjusting things and tailoring it to what I really enjoy. And I'm at a level, particularly on the digital side of things, that I thoroughly enjoy. I have to say the streamer is just brilliant. It's so good. I really enjoy doing that. And I think what I've done on the back foot of that, and this is a good example, is the Dead Mouse that I was playing. I found that streaming and then bought it on vinyl for special occasions. Not the cheapest thing to buy ever, but I think that's the way I deal with it, that you get the opportunity to have a sneak peek, have a quick listen to things on streaming. And for something you love, I would probably still buy it on the physical media. So if I couldn't get it on vinyl or it was too expensive, I probably would buy it on CD, because there is still a slight difference in quality between my CD and the streaming. I think the CD sounds just a little bit warmer, and I'll leave it at that. It's probably just a little bit warmer, to be honest with you, and it's possibly that I'm used to the CD player, and the streaming thing I've only had for maybe a couple of months. But I thoroughly enjoy the ability to search out new music. Anyway, guys, that's a strange little video on the Ditton Works system. I hope you've enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.